One day, I was bored, so I decided to play a game. I went to my attic and looked at the stacks of boxes I had up there for so long, that I stashed there long ago. The dust-covered brown squares looked back at me in a sort of glad-to-see-you way. I began to dig through them. Some was old Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and Pokemon merchandise. Then I came across my old Sega Dreamcast. I looked at it with nostalgia. I felt bad for getting such a great system. I got excited seeing all cords and controllers was still usable. I took the box downstairs. I hooked it up to my TV, ready for a entertaining evening. I picked my first game, Sonic Adventure. It started just fine. I picked Sonic and began the game the good old days, I thought. The gameplay was good until the characters started to act sad. They spoke sluggish, and sadly I thought the game was getting too old to play. Then Sonic turned to me. I tried my controller, but nothing happened. He just stared at me, so sad, so depressed. He never spoke. Finally he turned away. I resumed gameplay. All was normal for a while, until Tails stopped talking mid-sentence. I thought it froze, but he walked away from Sonic, as in giving up on the conversation. The Sonic turned to me again, looking like he's about to cry, and said, "Why?" Then turned back to normal gameplay. I paused the game, thinking I need a break. When I started to walk away, I heard small crying, very faint, very soft, coming from my TV. I walked back, sat back down, but all I saw was Sonic's face on the screen, crying, pounding on the screen. He quickly looked up at me and said, "Why? Why? Did you forget us?" I unpaused. He slowly walked back to where I paused him, but he never ran. He just sluggishly jogged around. At times he would stop to wipe his eyes. I started to feel bad for him. Then Amy walked on screen, dressed messy and dirty eyes red from crying. She said, "I buried him, Sonic. He was a good friend." She then turned to me, pointed at me, and said with sadness but disgust, "It is your fault he always remembered you." Sonic then started sobbing harshly and said, "We remembered you. Tails is dead because of you." I started to panic and went to turn off the game, but when I did, Amy did a long, high-pitched scream that knocked me backwards. She then ran you the water and jumped in. I grabbed for the controller to have Sonic save her. He didn't move. Instead, he turned and said, "Why do you care? You never cared, but we did." The camera focused on her slowly choking and gurgling that sounded so real and close to me. She finally stopped struggling and floated to the top of the water. Sonic then started to walk toward an alleyway and grabbed a rope. He started sobbing and said, "You caused this. We loved you, but you've forgotten us." He then made a noose, threw it over a bar, and grabbed a box, got up on it, and wrapped the noose around his neck. His eyes was now crying blood. He looked at me and said, "We never forget." He then hung himself. As he was swinging, he whispered over and over, "We never forget," over and over and over. Then the screen faded to black and the Dreamcast shut off. I then ran for it to turn it on. The Sonic Adventure game wouldn't read. The screen just said, "No one is left to play." I went to bed hoping to forget this. I didn't get much sleep. I went back to the system and took out the Sonic Adventure CD. I felt cold and oddly heavy. I then poked in another game, Project X, and began the game.